Hey, hey, hey! For those who are catching the replay, because nobody's on right now. I've not done a live in ages. I'm going to wait and see if anybody hops on with me here. Got my notepad and nothing written on it. So I'm winging it today. Exciting stuff. I've not been live, like publicly, in a while. I've been doing like little secret live videos that are set to only me for like my yoga journal, which I may share bits and pieces as I get better with things to kind of like show my progress and stuff, but right now it's just for my sake. So I'm still waiting to see if anybody hops on. I'm gonna write a couple of notes here so I know what I'm doing while I wait. But hopefully we get some people hopping on, and this part's not too long and boring for the replay, but you can always fast forward it. So still, if you guys hop on, sometimes the live thing is, there's a little bit of a delay, so just like comment, hey, so I see you. And if nobody comes on within like the next 5 minutes, then I'm just gonna start it up on my own. With no one to talk to. I feel like we're so over inundated lately with social media. Like everybody has gotten the habit of just like doom scrolling constantly that we're not even really paying attention anymore. So I feel like, especially on certain social media platforms, the lives don't actually do all that well unless you already have like built up something. Like Insta, I've noticed that Instagram, unless you're already famous, you're lucky if you get like 1 or 2 people on, and then you're like really lucky if they sit through the whole thing. So Facebook, I used to have a lot of luck doing lives with Facebook though, so we'll see. But again, I've not done them in a long time, so people probably aren't expecting them, and I'm completely switching gears, which is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because I was planning on getting my Free the Truth news channel back up and going. Hey, there's a 1. There's somebody here. Hey, how's it going? It's not telling me who it is though. So I wanted to get my news channel back up and running, but I have to like completely switch gears with it because of the censorship going on. And I kind of wanted to have a dialogue about what that's going to look like and like everyone's opinion on that, because the censorship is getting ridiculous. The algorithms are definitely favoring certain people over others, shadow banning certain people over others. And if I talk about certain subjects on most platforms, I'm probably just gonna end up disappearing off of them, because that's what's been happening for a lot of us that are not afraid to talk about certain taboo subjects. I don't know who's on. Do you mind saying hi? But also, I wanted to switch gears with the news channel because I'm finding that in the truther movement or the red pill movement, there's been a lot of fear-mongering, and I understand like wanting to be aware that there's a lot of really dark stuff going on in our world. Hey, how's it going, Michael? But I think, so I don't want to get into the whole like spiritual bypass thing where we don't ever talk about anything negative, but in the same token, I don't want to be feeding into the fear porn either. That's out there, and it seems like there's two extremes here, and both of them are feeding into the fear, whether it's the extreme on, you know, this in our media, in the actual news, the mainstream, where they're fear-mongering about viruses and right, so like they're fear-mongering about, you know, different things that are going on in politics. Oh, they're taking, you know, women's rights away, and not that there's not actual issues to be discussed there, but it's very much like fear porn, where they go so far to the end of the extreme in order to like kind of funnel you in the direction they want you to go. But we're having an issue with that same bullcrap with the truther movement, where everybody is like calling out the tiniest little thing. There are so many people right now in my feed that, like, if I make this hand gesture, now all of a sudden I'm Illuminati, I'm the devil, I'm probably like a pedo or something. Like this is just it's a mudra, which could be used for like spiritual things, unblocking certain chakras, like directing your energies in a particular manner. I personally do not believe that we can accidentally move or gesture our bodies in a particular way and then, like, I don't know, suddenly be part of like a cult or summon a demon or something. And there's a lot of people, especially in the truther movement, when you get into like Christians that are in the truther movement, where they're like, yoga's evil, and if you make this, if you cover your eye in a photo, you're Illuminati, or like you can't even eat pasta now. So it's getting a little crazy. It's a little over the top. So I wanted to kind of switch gears with, when I jump back on my Free the Truth news. First of all, I got to rebrand. I probably have to just completely scrap the channels that I had before, because I'm pretty sure they're already flagged. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I'm trying to find a balance, and it's really tough because we're in an extreme cancel culture too. So you say one thing out of place, one thing wrong, all of a sudden, like, you're being canceled by one movement or another, right? So if I say men can't have periods, now all of a sudden people on the left are wanting to completely cancel me, and they're attacking me. If I say, you know, oh, I enjoy doing yoga, now all of a sudden all the Christians are coming for me saying that, like, I'm into some dark, heavy crap. So it's, and then there's even like this whole idea of spiritual bypassing, which is definitely an issue, right? So you get into like the spiritualist communities, which I consider myself a very spiritual person, and everybody wants to gatekeep everything, even in the spiritual community. Oh, you can't do this because it's cultural appropriation. You can't, you know, worship this deity because you're not, this is not your heritage or whatever. Or they want to, they, you know, if you're too positive, then you're spiritual bypassing. If you're too negative, then, you know, you're inviting negativity into your life. It's, you can't say anything these days. It's getting, so when I rebrand and re-gear my news channel, I kind of just want to focus on people who are finding solutions to the problem rather than focusing on the problems themselves. Because, you know, there's a lot of problems out there. But if people are out there actually trying to make a difference and making positive impacts, that's what I want to focus on. And so when I kind of switch gears, that's where I plan to go. And I'm planning on focusing on more spiritually minded, health-minded things, because I do honestly believe that if we are going to change the world, we first have to change ourselves, like on an individual, personal level. So if we want our communities to be healthy, our families need to be healthy. If we want our families to be healthy, we need to be healthy. And so a lot of what I'm going to be focusing on when I do revamp my channel is going to be health and wellness, whether it's mental health, spiritual health, emotional health. I want to talk about so many things. Like, there are so many buzzwords, and they deserve a little bit of attention, but they're getting the wrong attention, okay? So things like toxic masculinity, but when we talk about them, nobody wants to talk about toxic femininity. Okay, that's a little biased. There's an issue there. You know, when we talk about empathy and narcissism, I feel like even within those who understand the psychology, the dialogue is not correct, okay? Because there's no room for growth if you're dealing with someone that you think is a narcissist, okay? And everybody is throwing around the term narcissist so loosely. Are there really that many narcissists? Are there really that many people that, like, there's no hope for? Should we really be looking at these things in this way where we're basically just looking at people as like NPCs or a lost cause, or so badly broken that there's no hope for them? And I understand, because I come from having some extreme issues with being very codependent, to the point where I allowed certain people in my life to completely erase my personality and my identity, because I was walking on eggshells with them. And I think what it actually boils down to with that kind of stuff, it more has to do with you not being strong enough in yourself. Now, obviously you can't blame a child for trauma that happened to them, you know, when they were younger, but as we become adults, it's kind of our responsibility to heal ourselves. So yeah, so there's a lot that I want to talk about. I'm curious, what is it that, like, what topics are you guys more interested in hearing about? I have a lot of, I wanted to start a podcast that's basically just my high thoughts. I know that a lot of people, that may not be your cup of tea. A lot of people still feel like psychedelics are the devil. Or they're worried about things like, you know, being addicted, or whether or not you're using it responsibly and things like that. And I get it, but I think that people are very closed-minded to things that could actually be healing and helpful when used appropriately, and they will take a pill from pharmaceutical companies like that without asking any questions. So I just ask that if you do follow along for those types of things, when I do share them, to just keep an open mind. But I've had a lot of amazing epiphanies and breakthroughs, like emotional breakthroughs in healing my trauma, because of the use of psychotropic things. Some of which, like, I harvest myself, I make myself. One is ghost pipe. That's not one that's illegal. It's not even on the FDA's radar at this point. And it's not psychedelic in the sense that it doesn't change your cognitive thinking. It just kind of separates you from your emotional pain in a way that allows you to observe it without feeling like the weight of it. So it's good for if you need to heal trauma by reliving that trauma, re-experiencing it so that you can reframe it. It kind of creates a safe space within yourself that you can do that without re-traumatizing yourself. So, but I wanted to share a podcast kind of about my experiences with these things, just the thoughts that come to my mind when I'm taking these things. I started taking them for the cancer, because RSO is actually supposed to help shrink cancer, and it ended up helping a lot with my complex PTSD. Yeah, like it ended up helping way more with like complex PTSD issues. So it's been an interesting ride. So there's that. I wanted to talk about, you know, toxic masculinity, and toxic femininity, because I believe that they both exist, guys. I want to talk about, you know, the relationship between empaths and narcissists. Do empaths exist? What is an empath versus someone who has empathy? Or is this just like another form of like spiritual narcissism, which I feel like sometimes it can be. Full spectrum and weaving all the ideas together. Yes, but that's the thing. Everything's misinterpreted, right? Because nobody defines definitions, and we've gotten to a place. Can you guys hear me okay over the furnace? It's a little loud. We've gotten to a place in our society and our culture where the truth is this fluid, you know, my truth is not your truth, and your truth is not my truth, and like it's all about perspectives and like looking at things from different angles. But I don't necessarily think that it's wrong to view things as just perceptions, like multiple perceptions, but at the same time there are some absolute truths out there. There have to be. And when you're playing around with words where the word woke gets, we now say awake instead of woke, because we started using woke to mean one thing, and then all of a sudden it meant another thing, and now nobody knows what anyone's talking about when they use these words, and no one wants to sit down and take the time to like, okay, well, what does this word mean to you? Everyone just gets triggered and jumps on each other and attacks each other. And one thing that I've learned in my journey of healing my own codependence is 2 years ago, if you had asked me about my ex, I would have told you, sworn up and down, that he was a narcissist. I'm sorry, it's loud. I wish I could fix that. I would have sworn up and down that he is like a legit narcissist 2 years ago. But as it turns out, I don't even think that this whole idea of narcissists even really exists in the way that psychologists think that it does. It's obviously a result of trauma, and people get so ingrained in their ways that it's really hard for them to change. It's really, really hard for them to humble themselves enough to change. But the biggest way to like make that change impossible is to turn that person into an enemy and treat them like the enemy, because then it puts them in a defensive position, and most people don't have the emotional maturity to respond in any other way except a narcissistic way when you're treating them like an enemy. And so when I changed my perception of this person that I swore was a narcissist, and I started treating them differently based on that perception shift, that's when I started seeing improvements. And so I think the dialogue for a lot of these topics needs to change. I do believe in a thing called toxic masculinity, but I do not believe in it in the way that the extreme left does. And it's hard for me to explain with people because they get so triggered. But it is an important thing to discuss, because our culture and our society has basically raised men to feel certain ways about femininity, about being emotional, about expressing those emotions. They have taught men to basically hate women and see them as only property or objects for their pleasure. And I don't think that it's as widespread as the internet would make it seem. In terms of like those that are like so far off the spectrum that they're like Andrew Tate. But it's enough for it to feel really scary being a female. And then you've got toxic femininity. Basically the way that I describe both of these is feminine and masculine are supposed to work together. They're supposed to be partners that support each other and uplift each other, and they have strengths and weaknesses that complement each other. And one is not above the other, but they're supposed to work together in unity. And toxic masculinity is when the masculine is not accepting or supportive of the female, and vice versa. Toxic femininity is when, you know, the feminine is not supportive of the masculine, right? One just wants to dominate the other in you know, whether it's through finances or through sex or manipulation or force, what have you. So it's really just a disunity between the sexes. That's all it really is, and it manifests itself in different ways depending on what you identify with, you know, masculine energy, feminine energy, what have you. And it's getting, the more imbalanced we become between the genders, the more we're going to be seeing like the transgenderism and sexual confusion, gender confusion. And the reason for that is because as humans, we're constantly going to try to find ways to like rebalance things. And so that's one of the ways that people are trying to rebalance things as they spiral further and further out of control. Am I saying that it's a right way or a wrong way to try and balance those things? I would like to debate that. I would like to have a safe space to talk about those types of things without people getting triggered and jumping on each other. So that's something I want to talk about. The problem is, so many of these topics, again, with the cancel culture and the censorship and all that's going on, it's extremely hard to talk about any of this in a way that is productive, because the second you have productive conversation on it, somebody comes out of the woodworks and wants to cancel you, or somebody reports your channel and, you know, the algorithms don't favor you anymore, or you just get completely banned because these social platforms don't support the narrative that you're pushing. Because right now, the narrative that mainstream media is pushing is division. That, plain and simple, it's division. Period. And we don't want to divide. We want to unify. Okay. And anytime you have a message that unifies anything, you ain't gonna last. So I kind of feel like I almost need to speak in code if I'm going to be doing this on social media, but we're going to give it a shot. We're going to give it a try. I do need to rebrand. There are certain things that I absolutely cannot talk about anymore. I think you know what they are. Certain things that I can't talk about, or I will get banned. I will get my stuff pulled down. There are certain standpoints and things that I would warn people about where it's kind of like, you're at this point with the censorship, if you haven't figured it out, you're on your own. I don't know what to tell you. I will still talk about these things face to face with people, in person with people. Most of you guys who follow me, you already know where I stand on these things. So at this point, I feel like it's not even worth it to talk about it on social media anymore. It's not going to get us anywhere except banned. I'll probably be veering away from that. And again, instead of focusing on the problem, which is certain corporations pushing certain products, certain governmental entities pushing certain products, I want to focus on solutions. How can we get healthy? How can we, what are some alternative methods to health and wellness? So those are definitely things I want to focus on. But again, I want to know, what are you guys interested in talking about? I've got like spirituality, emotional health, mental health, physical health, that kind of stuff. Those are the things that I want to focus on, and also like solutions. So I've got a nonprofit, and I say nonprofit loosely because I don't want to like form an actual like entity that's whatever. But in the sense that any money that I do raise is going to go straight to the cause, not in anybody's pockets. But I wanted to start a nonprofit called All Land is Sacred, kind of about start small with things that are less triggering for these big corporations, where we're just kind of like cleaning up our own communities. But I would eventually like to broaden that to something much bigger, where we're cleaning up whole ecosystems and stuff, and just healing people's mindsets when it comes to commercialism and consumerism, and like finding ways to incentivize people to support their local farms and their local shops. And globalism, there's a lot great about it in terms of, you're able to network all over the place, all over the world, and it's fantastic, and you can travel and you can learn about different cultures. But by and large, globalism is going to destroy the planet. Pure and simple. Okay. Globalism is the biggest reason why we're destroying lands, and our oceans are full of trash and oil and all this crazy stuff. I also want to talk about this idea of climate change, and I put that in quotes because I do believe in climate change, but not in the way that the mainstream media is pushing it. Okay. If there is an issue with the climate changing, it's because of all of the runoff from chemicals and stuff that are getting into our oceans. It's because of the fact that we're like over consuming things that we have no business over consuming, everybody's got to have the latest and greatest everything constantly. It's a very disposable And it's not just our nation. This is a global thing now. So getting back down to nature, getting closer to nature, getting more local, like localized, focusing on our localized communities, those are things that are going to help start to fix these issues. So yeah, nobody's really talking. Everybody's just kind of chilling. So I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to input, like things that they would like to talk about that they think are worth discussing. But I really think that we need to stop treating everybody as an enemy just because they have different opinions, and we need to actually start defining our terms and taking the time to like understand people. Hi Lynn, how's it going? I do have a lot of interesting different spiritual beliefs now than I used to. I do still, and I know that that's going to be kind of triggering and upsetting for certain people in the Christian groups that I used to run in. But I do still follow Jesus. Just maybe not in the way that most Christians do. Yeah, all of it, right? The fact that we're like trying to separate certain spots and like, okay, this is a reservation for, animals, and this is a reservation for these people, and like to me it's like all land is sacred. We should be treating all land with respect. Yeah, I'm doing me. But mostly I think it's important for us to get more local, honestly. Less consumerism and get more local. Care about your communities. It starts in the family. It really does. It starts in the family. It starts on an individual level, and then it radiates to the family, and the family radiates to the local community. Everybody here is so stuck on their phone, me included. It's something that I definitely need to work on. We're so stuck on our phone, and a lot of times we're connecting with people that are like, they're not connected to our communities at all. They're over here and, no offense to all of my friends all over the world. You guys are amazing. And I am hoping to globally inspire more localism. But we really do need to start connecting with our communities and supporting local businesses and local farms and things like that, especially, and learning how to be sustainable and self-sufficient. Because, we all know we can't trust the government. Okay? I don't care if you're left wing, right wing. I don't care if you believe in the same stuff I do. I think we can all agree that we cannot trust our government. It's gotten way too big. It's gotten way too corrupt. And so those are some other things that I want to focus on, is just learning how to be self-sufficient. I want to start gardening, growing my own mushrooms, all these different things that people used to do in order to sustain themselves. So when I talk about going back to the ways of our ancestors, yes, I do mean it in a spiritual way, but I also mean it in a very practical way, where we're learning how to do things for ourselves again, and we're not so dependent upon big chain grocery stores and government programs and things like that. Because eventually those government programs, well, like, I don't judge people. You want to use a government program because you feel like you need it. You go right ahead and you do that. But you need to understand that at some point, those programs are going to be used against the people in order to manipulate us to do things the way that the government wants us to do them. And at some point, you're not going to really like what the government wants you to do. It's just the way that it is. The bigger that the government gets, the more laws they're going to make. And eventually they're going to make laws that you don't agree with. So becoming self-sufficient, learning how to do things that our ancestors used to be able to do for themselves, is something that is really important to me. And I want to start learning those things and sharing them with you guys. And I'm sure at some point I'll get banned just for that, because they're already considering people who are doing like canning, like learning how to can food. They're like, oh, this is extreme prepping. This is extremism. Like, oh, okay, canning food is extremism. All right, yeah. So, it's kind of already going in that direction where, if you're not figuring out these things, how to do these things, you're going to end up getting left behind, so to speak, because they're going to start banning these types of things. But while I do have a platform, this is what I intend to use it for. So anyway, thanks thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This is a really hectic video. And again, the reason why I didn't post it on my news page is because I think I'm going to have to take that news page down completely and just rebrand everything. So if anybody has any ideas on what to call the new page that seems kosher and inconspicuous to the algorithms, that'd be great. But yeah, so I'm gonna start talking about stuff like that. Also, I wanted to do it. I'm sitting here pointing things at you guys. That's kind of rude. Sorry. I wanted to do a series about this is gonna get me in trouble with a lot of people, about Disney, but in a positive light. Hold your horses, those of you that think Disney is the devil. I get it. I get where you're coming from. I don't think you're wrong. However, you got to understand that the entire company is made up of lots and lots of multiple people. It's not just one person with one idea or one belief system. It's multiple people. And if you look at the way that the messaging has shifted in Disney, I've seen a lot of positives. That we can draw from. And I do think that the trick to beating the system is not only to become self-sufficient, kind of like start backing off of these bigger corporations, but also to like look for that silver lining, because I think, this is the age of Aquarius that we're going to start becoming into, and it's all about awakening. And there's a lot of people that are awakening to the bullcrap out there and the darkness, and they're wanting to make a difference and a change. And honestly, if you want to look on the bright side, I definitely believe that a lot of these bigger corporations and industries have been infiltrated by what some people would deem as light workers, people that actually do want to make a positive difference. I don't think that everybody that writes these scripts or plays these parts are a part of this big evil cult. Are some of them? Sure. I do think that. Do they hide their symbolism in a lot of their stuff? Sure. That's a possibility. But there's also a lot of positive that's coming out of it. And the biggest positive thing that I've seen trending in Disney right now is the fact that instead of focusing on, oh, my true love, I just met you yesterday, let's go get married. Or like, oh, I hate my stepmother, she's evil, and like, all that stuff. They're focusing more on healing family traumas. So if you look at, Turning Red, Encanto, things like this that are coming out, it's all about healing family traumas, which is amazing messaging and something that we desperately need these days, because I'm not gonna lie, boomers, sorry if this offends some of you, but the parenting back in like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s was crap. It was crap parenting, very authoritarian, very much like children must be seen and not heard, and you will do as I say or else, and like, just, it was very toxic. Not to say that letting your child run completely wild without discipline is not also toxic, but there's a balance, right? And a lot of the programming that's coming out is very much so about finding that balance, and I love it. I think it's wonderful. So I do kind of want to do a series kind of touching on some of the positives in the messaging that's coming out. Because we shouldn't be all doom and gloom. We shouldn't be looking for a demon under every rock. It's just, it's getting overbearing. It's getting crazy. And people can't even breathe or move wrong. And it's getting oppressive. So, but yeah, anyway, somebody else hopped on. I'm actually hopping off now, but thanks for popping in. Hopefully you catch the replay, even though this was a really chaotic video with no structure, no plan. I was just kind of winging it. But thanks for popping on, everybody. I'm going to be working on a lot of these ideas and trying to rebrand and stuff like that here within the next month or so. I got a lot of other projects and things that I'm working on, so hopefully I can find time. I'm probably going to be posting a lot less frequently than I used to when I was running the news channel, just because I've got a lot of other hats that I'm wearing and stuff, and there's so much research that has to go into the types of posts that I want to start putting out. Because again, I want to focus on solutions to problems, and you know, it's really easy to put a laser beam focus on issues. Everybody knows what the issues are. You know, it's easy for me to point a camera at an angry mob and report on, you know, the issues. But finding solutions takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of teamwork. And so I probably won't be posting as much as I used to, but I am back. So there's that. All right. Thanks for joining. I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Feel free to comment on the replay. Any ideas that you have, anything, any topics or subjects that you would like addressed and talked about. I want to make this a safe space to discuss hot button issues where we take the time to define terms and understand each other. I don't want to create a cancel culture where everybody's ganging up on people that don't believe the same. I really don't. I don't want that crap. So if I see it, I will block people. Just so you know. All right. Love ya.